This is the woman who's only had 4 hours sleep. I went to bed early because I was tired, because we'd got up early yesterday for Ludo, and we'd got to get up early again this morning for Ludo. And so we went to bed, I think it was about, I don't know, 10:30, 11:15, read for half an hour, laid down, tried to sleep, couldn't sleep, got up, went to the loo, came back, and I laid there for an hour and 3/4 before getting up and giving up. Got up, 1 o'clock, sat here, surfing, playing my game, went back at 2, eventually went back off to sleep, but the alarm went off at 7:45, so yeah, a bit tired really. We and Ludo didn't come anyway. He messaged me at 8:30 saying I can't come, I've got to wait in for a delivery. So that was annoying. It was like, but we're up now. We're bloody up. So we did a bit of shopping in Intermarché because I wanted to make ratatouille, which I've made. So I made a big ratatouille, which we had some of that for lunch, and I'm going to freeze the rest. The fires are like been holding off, trying not to light the fire, but the temperature in here was getting colder, and I sat last night in my dressing gown. It's not warm outside. It's 20 at the moment, I think, but I think there's a bit of sun. We haven't had a lot of sun. 23 in here. I downloaded Spotify because I noticed last night on Twitter that there was something called Archetypes, a podcast that Meghan Markle was doing that I hadn't heard and I wanted to hear. So I downloaded Spotify and I've just listened to her podcast with Mindy Kaling, who is a single mum, and I think she's written about life as a singleton. It was a really interesting podcast to hear both their stories, because both of them grew up feeling like they were different, feeling on the outside, not quite fitting in, and it intrigued me a little bit because it tends to be what we do, is that we continue unconsciously to choose that type of life. So, as we move through life, we make choices that keep us in that not quite fitting in, on the edge position, if that's how we feel as we're growing up. So I was quite intrigued to hear that that's how Meghan felt as she was growing up. And I know that I've said it before, but I like Meghan. And people will say things like, "Oh, she's an actress." It's like, well, yeah, well, and she is an actress, but it doesn't mean she's acting all the time. It's a bit like, at times, people have said to me or to Mark, "Oh, stop trying to do therapy on us." And it's like, well, we're not. It's not what we're doing. But the problem is, when you train to be a psychotherapist, you've been trained to be more questioning and trained to check stuff out and be a little bit more challenging. You don't just give up doing that when you stop work. You don't just stop being what you've learned to be. It would be like, I don't know, be like a doctor. Yes, a doctor in a restaurant, and somebody has got sick, and the doctor not doing anything or being able to do anything because he's not working. So he's not, he's not being a doctor. It's madness. So yes, she's an actress, and it doesn't stop me liking her. There must be other actresses people like. Interesting, I've discovered something last night that I had no idea what it means, and I wish I hadn't looked. Trending on Twitter is oh god, I'm gonna have to find it now. Prince pegging Prince or something. Pegging Prince of Pegging it was. Prince of Pegging, and I had to look it up, and it was about William, and I'm going to let you look it up. You have to look up. I'm not going to describe it on here, what it implies, but that was trending yesterday. Yeah. And I have no idea what's gone on. I have no idea what's gone on. I have no idea what gossip there is around William. Obviously, I have a little idea about what gossip there is because of how this is trending on Twitter, but I haven't had an idea because I don't, as I've said before, I don't really look at that stuff. I don't dig too deeply because most of what gets trending on Twitter is because somebody has made some sort of allegation or some shite bag like Piers Morgan is invested in giving somebody a really hard time, and then people pick it up and run with it. So I tend not to look at that because you don't know, do you? You just don't know what's behind it and how much truth is in the story that runs away with itself. Also, back in the news is the Tampax story that a lot of younger people may not know, or a lot of older people like Mark might have forgotten. The conversation that allegedly, because I now think when we heard it back in it would have been the 70s, when we heard it, it sounded like Charles talking to Camilla. It could well have been Charles talking to Camilla. At the time, I believed it was Charles talking to Camilla. But knowing what I know now is it could have been somebody who could do a good impression of Charles talking to Camilla. You need to look it up. Prince Charles, Tampax, Camilla. I'm not going to repeat it because it's gross. But that's also trending again. 4 days into Liz Truss's... it's not 4 days into her leadership, but it's like she's not really been doing anything, has she? She's been, they've been doing the Queen and the mourning and the travelling and the trying not to get a trade with America and all of that stuff. But Mark said to me, I haven't read it yet, but Mark said to me that because of the financial decisions that they've made over there was a budget on Friday. Sorry, a not budget on Friday. It was called a fiscal event. The pound plummeted against the dollar, lowest it's ever been since like 1971. Shite going down, and apparently Mark says he read that the Bank of England are thinking about stepping in. That's just amazing, isn't it? Just amazing. And there was a documentary or a newscast on, I suppose you'd call it a documentary. I don't know what the name of it was on Al Jazeera. They often do like hour-long investigative type programs, and they had done one on the Labour Party and all the stuff around the anti-Semitism stuff. I watched it. I didn't know it was it's like Boris walking into the party not knowing he was going to be walking into a party. I didn't know it was going to be on because Mark just put stuff on. And then I started to watch it passively from over here, and the telly's over in the corner. And I watched quite a bit of it. It was interesting, and annoyingly at the end, some of the outcomes of the investigation came up on screen in writing, which I couldn't really read from over here and hadn't realised because I'd been listening to it, and then came up on screen, so I missed some of the outcomes at the end. But that's been really running in the news. People saying Corbyn was right. Well, I've never doubted Corbyn. He's another one. I don't deliberately go for what people might describe as the underdog, but I don't know. He's another one that the newspapers have twisted his story, twisted things about him. The Daily Hail twisting photos of him and making look fucking bastards, making him look like he was dancing on his way to the bloody cenotaph when he wasn't. He was having a conversation with a very old veteran and walking with him and listening to him and moving in and listening to him. And they cut that bit out and made it look like Jeremy Corbyn was dancing. That's what fucking newspapers do. That's what the media does. They twist stories, and you really need to be able to know that and sit back from that. Sorry. So anyway, Corbyn is doing well now. He, people are saying, oh, he was right, this, that, and the other, using the Al Jazeera investigation. And I noticed that one person said here that, and I replied, because I do, oh, that made me laugh as well. I'll have a look at that in a sec. Something about, yes, he was right, but he wouldn't have made, he wouldn't have been a good prime minister. Something like that. And I said, oh, what, you mean like Johnson and Truss? Oh, but he was incapable of being a PM. It's like, twat. The other thing that made me laugh was Joe Lycett. Joe Lycett, who spams people, who's really good at dealing with scammers and scams them back, has written to Liz Truss, tweeted her, hold your nerve, babe, you got this. That's funny. So, yeah. Oh, here we go. Charles and Camilla trending, archetypes trending. So that's what I've been doing. And I think that I finished telling you what I was going to tell you. I'm better. Not slept, obviously, but I'm better. I am better. I am not struggling, and I'm not going to the doctors because I don't need to. And I've just cancelled my appointment so someone else can have it. Yeah, and I'm really pleased because I really didn't want my polymyalgia rheumatica coming back and flaring, because it can do that if you come down too low on the steroids at the wrong time. You can end up with what's called a flare, or in France it's called a rechute. And I don't want that. It's been a long haul. It's been 6.5 years, and I'm not at the end yet, but I'm much, much better than I was. And sometimes people think that I could stop the steroids, and I can't. One, you can't stop steroids really quickly. You have to come down really slowly, which is what I've done. A bit too quick for my doctor on the prednisolone, but whatever. But the risk with polymyalgia rheumatica is that you can get giant cell arteritis, not arthritis. I can never pronounce the last word, but it's called GCA for short. And if you decide to go without steroids, a lot of people, I use a forum called the Health Unlocked Forum. And you get people come on there saying, well, I've got this and I'm going to do it without steroids. I'm not going to take steroids. And, it puts you at risk of losing your sight. Because if you get GCA, which is, giant sort of cells in your arteries, in your head, you can end up losing your sight, and I'm not willing to risk that. So I have to carry on taking steroids until such time as I can reduce them enough and come off them. And then because what happens when you're on steroids for so long is your adrenal glands get suppressed. So it takes a long time for those to come back, if they come back. Anyway, so that's where we're at. I'm going to go and sit and mong in front of the television now to drift off if I can and try and catch up on. Oh, did I say we'd lit the fire? Yeah, we'd lit the fire. So yeah, it's quite warm in here now. It's quite pleasant. And Mark will be back in about an hour. And today is Tuesday afternoon, and you'll get this on, I suppose Wednesday comes next. You'll get it Wednesday morning, I think. I think you've got another one to come this evening. It's going to probably piss a few people off. Quelle surprise. What have I got coming up? Bear with me. It's a bit slow. Come on. There we go. Oh, the one that you've got coming, or the one that you had last night, is the one where I ramble and rant un peu. There you go. Okay. Bonne journée.